All right.
Thank you.
So meanwhile, we did have a series of panel discussion lined up, and start with Shailaja and Mridula with, the home country residency kind of, the experience. So maybe we'll start off with Shailaja. So Shailaja, a lot of students have home country residencies, and they are looking to either, they typically may have home country residency in OB/GYN or some of the other specialties, and they are thinking, okay, how do I leverage it? How does it help me or not help me? What are the challenges? So do you mind sharing your journey and, your prior residency experience, and how you leveraged it in this match?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm sure Pawan and Dr. Panala know about my journey, but just for the benefit of the others, I would like to share it now. So I am a very old graduate. I'm probably not on that first slide that Pawan showed with the percentage of IMGs from each year of grad matching. And I didn't have a break in my career immediately after med school. So I took the PLAB exams, went to the UK, did my basic surgical training, which was a 3-year pathway. Did a year and a half actually of clinical and research fellow position in Manchester, and then was successful in getting into a urology residency program, which was a 5-year program. Finished that, got board certified, and then came over here for personal reasons because my family is here. And when I moved over here, I came to do a postdoctoral fellowship, which was meant to be a year of research and a year of clinical fellowship in urology. So I didn't have my USMLE exams at that time. I tried to do at least one of the steps before I came over.
Okay, I think one of the speakers may have to mute the laptop. Is that Lulua who joined?
Yeah, I joined. I muted my laptop.
Hey, Lulua. Yeah, we'll get your introductions in a minute. I think your speaker was not muted. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, sure. So I was doing my board certification exams in the UK, so I didn't actually manage to get through the steps, or even at least one of the steps that I was hoping to over there. And finally, I came over to New York and thought I should do a step. I did 1 year of research, working like 15 to 16 hours a day, and I didn't really have any contacts, to kind of get the information about people who are preparing for these exams. Didn't have any clue about the UWorld forum or any sort of forum, because I've lived in the UK for 10 years and I didn't really have any contact with anyone in the US. So I think I made a mistake at that time. The first mistake that I made was I took the CK in a rush, and I took CK first, and I failed it. I failed it because I saw one of the students asking a question like, I failed in my CK, can I ever make it? I failed my CK not because I was lurking around lazy, but because I was, dedicating full-time research, and I'm like, I wanted to be perfect in what I was doing. So the failure in CK was a big eye-opener for me. I decided I'm going to resign from my job, from the research position, and my PI didn't actually like the idea of me resigning. He refused my resignation initially. But then I went and spoke to him a couple of times, and then I spoke to all the people in the department, and eventually decided I'd resign, and came out of it. I did my CK. I studied for 4 months, did my CK, did my CS, and I wanted to finish my step 1 within like 4 months of finishing my CK. But then that's when I started having personal family emergencies. Lost my dad, spent a few months in India, came back, wanted to do step 1 by in the next 3 months' time following that. Had to go back to India again to attend to my mom, who needed an urgent bypass. And with all this, my step 1 got delayed by about a year after I finished my CS. So at that point, I decided, well, it's high time that I put this as a priority now. And I gave my step 1. So the CK, I ended up with 241. Step 1, I ended up with 251. And applied for urology residency programs, for surgical residency programs. And with advice from a lot of people, I applied for a few IM programs and family medicine programs as well. And then instead of getting US clinical experience in medicine, I was hoping to finish my step 3 because one of the other pathways after talking to a lot of people was about going through the fellowship route, which is what I was looking into if I didn't get into a surgical or a urology residency program. I did my step 3 recently, actually 2 weeks ago, just before the match week. And through this process, I focused all my attention towards urology. I got my urology LORs. I got my clinical, well, not clinical actually, research experience in the US in urology. But, I realized that urology was such a tough specialty to break into. So finally, I actually matched in internal medicine, which is like the only interview I attended to. Had 3 urology interviews, and the urology match happened before the actual match process. It's a separate match. The match result comes out in January. And I didn't get through, and I was ready to apply for SOAP, which is why I wanted to get the step 3 out of the way and have my fellowship option ready and have my SOAP options ready. And I was waiting to apply for the SOAP, and suddenly I realized that I couldn't apply for SOAP because I matched in IM. Now, I think thinking back, what I have probably, what fetched me this residency is probably all the effort that I put into urology, which I converted, or, I kind of played my game as I could transfer all these skills from my prior residency into whatever program I went in. So when I went in for the IM interview, I said that, okay, I probably wouldn't be able to use my surgical skills of maybe doing a prosthetic resection or, doing an operative procedure. But all the other skills that I have acquired, like building a team attitude, having the ethics, learning the ethical path during my residency training in the West, having to develop the communication skills, interacting with not just patients, but the family members, with your colleagues, with your peers. And, don't underestimate the role that nursing staff or even, people like porters in the hospital have a role. So never, it's dignity of labor that we have to respect. So using those, the communication, build your team working skills, build your, ethical principles, and, your communication skills, your administrative skills, trying to sort of do tasks on time. Don't say that I'm going to do this, or I've got this admin file that I'm going to do tomorrow. Just finish it. Whatever time it is, finish it at the end of the day. So I kind of used all these as bullet points to sell myself in this IM interview. And these skills can be used for any residency that you decide to apply in the future. Even if you had an OBGYN background, a surgical background, and a urology background like me, no one can take away these skills from you if you've paid attention and developed those. So I think that is very important. We all think, okay, well, I have done an OBGYN residency and I'm now applying for internal medicine. So how am I going to say that I'm going to fit in? Now, yeah, I've done surgical training before. I've done my urology residency. How can I say that, I'm going to use that experience in my internal medicine? Well, yes, I like operating. I like cutting. But that's not the only thing that I did as a resident during my training. I have to make sure that the patient is ready for an operation, which involved a lot of preoperative workup. I have to make sure that the patient recovers well post-operatively and gets discharged. And that's a lot of post-operative care that's involved. Surgical patients, particularly in urology, most of them are elderly patients. They come in for cystectomies, bladder cancer, prostate cancer. And they do end up with a lot of comorbidities. They're on polypharmacy by the time, they get to you. So you have to make sure that they are not going to develop an MI, they're not going to develop a PE or pneumonia when they're on the ward. So you can say that, from whatever specialty you have done, you can say that, well, I've been involved in this part, not just the operative part, but this part as well, and I can use it to make sure that I look after care for my patients on the ward. So now this is something that, Pavan actually helped me to work on throughout this journey of the applications, preparing for the applications and then for the interview. So thanks a lot, Pavan.
Thank you, Shailaja. Very, very inspiring, and I think the key point you hit is the transferable skills. It's not what you have done that is useless. A lot of things can be transferred, from a skills perspective to your specialty of choice, whether it's family medicine, internal medicine. So before I go to Mrudula, we were talking about the home country or prior residency and how did you leverage this to match here. How did you showcase your experience? So do you want to talk about your journey?
Sure, Pavan. Can you hear me now?
Yes, now we can. Yeah.
So hello, everyone. My name is Mrudula. I'm from India, and I matched an internal medicine residency this time. So talking about my journey, I am an OBGYN from India. I did my 3 years of residency after graduation, and then I started. Excuse me. And then I moved into a private practice. So during that time, along with OBGYN, I was taking care of, diverse patient population because I was the only one in that community. So I was taking care of medical conditions and, I developed interest in internal medicine and I felt it challenging and exciting. So, but I started rethinking my goal, and during that time, I had to move to the United States due to a personal reason. And then I would say that is a blessing in disguise because it helped me to, explore my interest in my newly formed decision. So then I tried talking to many of my friends, and everybody was telling, if you apply for internal medicine, nobody's going to call you or nobody's going to take you because nothing in your resume is pointing towards, your interest in internal medicine. So, most of them suggested me to apply OBGYN because they're telling you have good chance in OBGYN. So, I wasn't very sure. I applied for, for 2016 match for OBGYN, but I was, not very sure if I really want to take it or, pursue my interest in internal medicine. So I got 3 interviews, but obviously I didn't match. And so after I applied, so I started, doing observerships and externships in internal medicine because, I thought I would try next time definitely for internal medicine. So I started working on my resume, and after the match result, then I continued doing my externships in internal medicine, and then I matched this time. So Pavan and team helped me a lot to, fine-tuning my personal statement and my, interview preparation. And thank you very much, Pavan. The first thing I would say to those who are planning to change specialty, like doing a different residency back home and changing to a different specialty now. So first thing is don't lose your confidence. Stay positive. You can do it. So and Shailaja covered most of the important things. The transferable skills which you acquire from your prior residency. So nobody is going to take those away from you. As she said, like you have more hands-on experience, you have more experience, dealing with patients. You have managed stressful situations. You have worked for long hours. So, these are the points I use during my interviews, and everything you say, quote it with an example. Like Pavan, was saying it hundreds of times. Like everything you say, put it with an example. So, so these are the extra set of skills you have from your prior residency, be it medical or surgical or preclinical, whatever you have back home. And so the other thing which I want to say is every specialty has some sort of connection to each other. You know, like for instance, in my case, so I'm still going to take care of women. I'm going to take care of women's health, but in a different way. So I'm treating their medical conditions, chronic diseases, and doing their preventive care. So, you know, try to bring these points to the table and make it as your strength. And also make sure to you know, to let them know that you're still trainable. You know, don't you know, it's good to have confidence, but don't be overconfident. And you know, because learning is a lifelong process, and whatever you have learned and practiced back home is going to be very different from what you are going to do here. So, you know, in 2 of my interviews, I have been asked because you are already a practicing physician and you were the boss there, and how you're going to, you know, adjust with the system here with the fresh graduates and how you're going to learn. So, you know, I use that the same strategy which Pawan has helped me to, you know, so. And also let them know that you are ready to share your knowledge, ready to teach your colleagues when needed. And yeah, and what else? Yeah, also I want to share one more thing with you guys. After coming here, I got a research opportunity in ENT. So I was very confused, and I asked Pawan about that, and the same thing he was telling me. Just take the opportunity, because it's not what you do, I mean, with specialty that is important. What you have learned from it is important. The same thing, the transferable skills which you gain from research is important. So I took it up. So my journey is like OBGYN residency, ENT research, and then I matched internal medicine, because the same thing, whenever I was asked this question in my interviews, so what I have learned in research. So, you know, doing the data analysis, reviewing and interpreting complex literature, drafting a good manuscript. So the basic skills which are important in doing research, that's what you learn, whether it is ENT or ophthalmology or radiology. Because I've been hearing from many students that I got a research opportunity in radiology, and should I take it or not? So the same thing, the transferable skills which you acquire from what you do are the most important things which you should bring to the table and make them as your strength. So
all right. Yeah. No, thank you very much, Mrudula. Yeah, no, this was great. Thank you. I hope it inspires many of you who have done prior residencies not to give up. So now let's